It was never my intention to cause such a rift in Aiden's family, but I can't bring myself to regret my actions either. My name is Eliza, and I'm a 32-year-old woman who has always valued her independence and career ambitions above all else. I met Aiden, who's 34, at a work conference 3 years ago. We hit it off immediately, and despite coming from vastly different backgrounds, we found ourselves drawn to each other's contrasting perspectives on life. Aiden came from a traditional family where the women were expected to be homemakers, while I was raised by two career-driven parents who instilled in me the importance of financial independence. Against his family's wishes, Aiden and I began dating, and our relationship blossomed into something truly special. However, his traditional mother, Caroline, made it abundantly clear from the start that she disapproved of me and my unnatural priorities. Despite Caroline's cold demeanor towards me, Aiden and I decided to take the next step in our relationship and get married. We had been together for 2 years at that point, and he wholeheartedly supported my decision to continue working after our wedding. In fact, he outright told his mother that he expected me to keep my job, as we both valued having dual incomes. The wedding itself was a tense affair, with Caroline and the other women in Aiden's family barely concealing their disdain for my untraditional ways. I tried my best to be polite and make an effort, but their icy glares and backhanded comments made it clear that they would never fully accept me unless I conformed to their ideals. In the months that followed, the strain between us only grew worse. Caroline would constantly make snide remarks about my career, implying that I was neglecting my wifely duties by working long hours. The other women in the family followed her lead, ostracizing me from their social circles and treating me like an outcast. It all came to a head at Caroline's 55th birthday party, which Aiden had asked me to plan and organize. I went above and beyond, booking an upscale venue and meticulously overseeing every detail, hoping that this gesture would finally win me some acceptance from his family. The party itself was a resounding success, until Caroline took the microphone to give her speech. What should have been a heartfelt expression of gratitude quickly descended into a vicious character assassination. In front of all the guests, she revealed a deeply personal and traumatic event from my past, twisting the details to paint me as an immoral and unethical person. As Caroline stood at the podium, a sly grin spread across her face. She began by thanking everyone for attending and complimenting the beautiful decor and arrangements. But then her tone shifted, taking on a sharp, vindictive edge. "Of course, we have my dear daughter-in-law Eliza to thank for organizing this wonderful event," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Though I must say, her talents for party planning are rather surprising, given her checkered past." A hush fell over the crowd as Caroline proceeded to recount a story from my early career days. According to her, I had allegedly been fired from my first job for trying to seduce my married boss in exchange for a promotion. The accusation was a blatant lie. The truth was that he had been the one making unwanted advances, which I had firmly rejected. When I threatened to report his behavior, he retaliated by terminating my employment and fabricating a story to ruin my reputation. But Caroline painted me as the villain, depicting me as an immoral homewrecker who would stop at nothing to get ahead professionally. She spared no detail, gleefully twisting the knife with every embellished anecdote about my supposed misdeeds. I felt the blood drain from my face as she continued her cruel diatribe. Aiden looked just as mortified, clearly unaware that his mother had unearthed this deeply buried and painful chapter of my life. Tears stung my eyes as I watched the horrified and judgmental expressions on the guests' faces. Unable to endure another second of this public humiliation, I turned and fled the venue, Caroline's taunting laughter ringing in my ears. How could she be so heartless? So determined to tear me down on what should have been a joyous occasion? In that moment, I knew our relationship was irreparably shattered. I rushed out to the parking lot, thankful that my car was close by. As I fumbled with the keys, trying to unlock the door through my tear-blurred vision, I heard footsteps approaching from behind. It was Aiden. "Eliza, wait!" he called out, finally reaching me. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was going to do that." I spun around to face him, my hurt and anger bubbling over. "How could you not know, Aiden? Your mother has made it abundantly clear from day one that she despises me. This was just the final twist of the knife." Aiden ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "You're right. I should have seen this coming from her. But I never imagined she would stoop so low as to publicly humiliate you like that. Well, she did, I spat out bitterly. And in the cruelest way possible, by dredging up my most painful memory and distorting the truth for her own vindictive purposes. Aiden stepped closer, his expression pained. I know, and I'll never forgive her for this. But please, don't shut me out too. We're supposed to be a team, remember? His words struck a chord, reminding me that as horribly as his mother had treated me, Aiden himself had been unwavering in his love and support. He had defended me time and again against his family's cruelty. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, I met his remorseful gaze. You're right. This isn't your fault, and I don't want to pull away from you because of your mother's reprehensible actions. Relief washed over Aiden's face, and he pulled me into a tight embrace. We stood there in the parking lot, holding each other, as I struggled to regain my composure after the traumatic events of the evening. What do you want to do? Aiden finally asked, pulling back to look at me. If you want to leave and go home, I'll come with you, no questions asked. I shook my head slowly. No, I don't want to let your mother ruin this night completely. I put too much effort into planning this party to just walk away. Aiden gave me a sad smile. Are you sure? Because after that deplorable display, I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to see my family again. Maybe that's for the best. I admitted quietly. But tonight, I want to show your mother that she can't break me so easily. Let's go back inside and try to salvage what's left of this evening for us. With a determined nod, Aiden took my hand, and we re-entered the venue together. Caroline and most of the other guests had already left, but a small group remained, including a few of Aiden's relatives who had been kind to me before. Their expressions were a mix of shock, pity, and admiration as we rejoined them. The remainder of the evening was incredibly awkward and strained. But I was determined not to let Caroline's cruel actions ruin everything. Aiden and I put on brave faces, mingling with the few guests who had decided to stay. His cousin Emily gave me a supportive hug, whispering, "I'm so sorry," in my ear. A couple of his friends clapped Aiden on the back, clearly sympathizing with the uncomfortable situation his mother had created. We made an effort to enjoy the elaborate decorations, delicious catered food, and free-flowing champagne that I had organized small comforts to cling to amidst the wreckage of the party. Aiden rarely left my side, his hand securely holding mine as if anchoring me through the turmoil. As the night drew to a close and the last few guests trickled out, I finally allowed the full weight of Caroline's betrayal to wash over me. In the privacy of our car, the floodgates opened once more, and I wept openly against Aiden's shoulder. He stroked my hair soothingly, letting me release the pent-up hurt and humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Eliza. You didn't deserve any of that," he murmured over and over. "But I promise you, there will be consequences for my mother's actions. I won't let this go unanswered." Part of me felt guilty for allowing a family rift, but another part, perhaps the stronger part, felt vindicated in cutting toxic negativity out of my life, no matter who it came from. As we drove home that night, I realized this might be the beginning of a permanent separation from Caroline and her deluded traditionalist views. The next morning, I awoke to a string of texts and missed calls from Caroline. At first, they were more snide comments and non-apologies. But as the hours ticked by, her tune gradually shifted to one of apparent remorse and contrition. She claimed she finally understood the full truth about my past thanks to Aiden, and that she deeply regretted her actions. Part of me wanted to believe her change of heart was genuine. But after her brutal public ambush, could I really trust her supposed regret? Or was this just another self-serving ploy for sympathy? The doubts swirled in my mind as I watched the messages continue to pour in, each one more pleading than the last. When Aiden returned home from running errands, I expressed my uncertainty over how to respond. To my surprise, he was firmly on my side. "You don't owe her anything, Eliza, especially not your forgiveness after what she put you through," he stated emphatically. "If you want to cut her out of our lives completely, I'll support your decision fully." His unconditional backing was exactly what I needed to feel validated in protecting my own peace. Caroline's words had been laced with venom, causing trauma that mere apologies couldn't instantly undo. While a part of me mourned the potential loss of family, a stronger self-preservational instinct urged me to erect firm boundaries. In that moment, I made my choice. I decided that for my own mental well-being, I needed to cut Caroline out of my life completely, at least for the foreseeable future. Her cruelty had crossed a line that could not be readily uncrossed. However, maintaining that boundary would likely create an even deeper rift with the rest of Aiden's family. When I shared my decision with Aiden, he unflinchingly stood by me. "I'll back you 100% on this," he stated firmly. "If that means going no contact with my mother for now, and potentially the rest of my family, then so be it. You're my priority." True to his word, Aiden ignored the increasingly irate messages from Caroline and blocked her number. I followed suit, finding twisted satisfaction in silencing the barrage of hollow apologies and excuse-making. But we hadn't anticipated the full backlash that would come from Aiden's father, Robert. A few days later, he showed up unannounced at our doorstep, his expression thunderous. "Have you both lost your minds?" he boomed without preamble. "Cutting off your own mother over one mistake? This is going to destroy our family." Aiden tried to reason with his father, but Robert was having none of it. Apparently, the rest of the family already blamed me for poisoning Aiden against Caroline. They couldn't fathom that she herself was the architect of this growing divide. "She's apologized and feels terrible," Robert insisted. "What more can the woman do? Your mother is absolutely beside herself with regret." Maybe she should have thought about that before humiliating Eliza so vindicatively in front of everyone. Aiden shot back, his tone clipped. Robert's face mottled with rage. "Don't you dare speak about your mother that way. She's the victim here." The heated argument quickly devolved, with Robert hurling cruel insults about my character before storming out, vowing to make us pariahs within the family until we came to our senses. His tirade left us both shaken. In the days that followed, the threats proved to be more than just bluster. A slew of Aiden's aunts, uncles, and cousins bombarded our phones, emails, and social media with vitriol-laced messages. We were branded as selfish, disrespectful, and the harbingers of the family's disintegration. Even some of Aiden's friends and work colleagues reached out, seemingly influenced by Caroline's version of the events and encouraging Aiden to make amends. For the family's sake, the coordinated onslaught was suffocating and made me feel like a criminal for simply protecting my own dignity. Through it all, Aiden remained resolute in his support, shielding me as best he could from the cruelest attacks. But I could see it was taking a massive emotional toll on him as well. His once strong family ties were fraying by the day. After one particularly nasty barrage of messages from his uncle, I finally broke down in tears of frustration and guilt. "Aiden, I can't help but wonder if I've made a terrible mistake by asking you to cut ties," I admitted, choking back sobs. "Your family is everything to you. I never wanted to separate you from them completely. Maybe I should just swallow my pride and try to make amends." Aiden was quick to comfort me, pulling me into a tight embrace. "Don't you dare think that way, Eliza," he said firmly. "You didn't ask for any of this. It was my mother's despicable actions that forced this situation. And I made the choice to stand by you without any reservations." He cupped my face in his hands, his gaze intensely loving. "My family is important to me, yes, but you are my core family now. If they cannot treat my wife with the dignity and respect you deserve, then I don't need the toxicity in our lives." His unwavering support was like a balm for my wounded spirit. I felt the guilt slowly dissipating, replaced by a steely resolve. We were a united front, and we wouldn't be broken by Caroline's manipulation tactics. "You're right," I said, managing a small smile. "We didn't do anything to be ashamed of. Your mother made her bed, and now she has to lie in it." Aiden nodded firmly. "Exactly. And anyone who chooses her side over ours was never worthy of our loyalty to begin with." From that point on, we stopped agonizing over the incessant messages and calls from his clan. We blocked numbers and emails, creating a dimly lit sanctuary away from their judgmental noise. At first, it was an immense relief to have that negativity silenced. But after a few weeks, the absence of Aiden's once huge family presence started weighing on him. I could see the melancholy that crept into his eyes whenever a holiday or family gathering came and went without notice. My heart broke watching him grieve that loss. As much as I despised Caroline's actions, I knew her viciousness shouldn't be allowed to drain all familial joys from our lives. Something had to change. One evening, As we prepared for bed, I broached the subject after mustering my courage. Aiden, what if we tried making peace but on our own terms? I began tentatively. Not with your mother necessarily, but maybe reach out to those family members who've stayed reasonable and neutral throughout this mess? He looked at me quizzically for a moment before realization dawned. You mean extend an olive branch? Maybe host a small gathering for a few select relatives. Make it clear we want to keep them in our lives? I nodded slowly. It's just an idea. But I can't bear seeing that sadness in your eyes anymore when another family event passes us by. Maybe this crazy rift doesn't have to be all or nothing? The thought seemed to spark a glimmer of hope within Aiden. He considered it carefully before responding. You know what? You might be onto something brilliant there, he said, a slow smile spreading. If we do it on our terms, and don't let my mother hijack the situation, it could be a way to reclaim some of those connections, the healthy ones. He pulled me closer, gratitude shining in his eyes. Thank you for thinking of this, Eliza. Your wisdom keeps amazing me, even when I'm the one who should be protecting you. With tender kisses, we made plans to extend some carefully worded invitations to a small, curated guest list. The road to healing wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to help Aiden preserve the family ties that truly mattered, while cutting off the toxic branches forever. It was just the latest lesson that sometimes the family you choose is more precious than the one you're born into. And I thanked my lucky stars that Aiden had chosen me. Over the next few weeks, Aiden and I carefully reached out to a small handful of his relatives who had stayed relatively neutral during the family clash. His cousin Emily and her husband were the first to respond enthusiastically to our olive branch invitation for a private catch-up dinner. The evening was slightly awkward at first, but Emily's warm presence helped dissolve the tension. I'm just so glad you two still want us in your lives, she said with a watery smile, grabbing my hand. Mom's actions were unforgivable, but that doesn't erase my love for you both. Aiden's eyes shone with gratitude to have that unconditional support. As we laughed and reminisced over old family stories, I could physically see him relaxing, the weight of the familial rift temporarily lifted from his shoulders. A few other trusted relatives eventually joined our next few gatherings, and Uncle here, a set of caring grandparents there. Slowly but surely, we started rebuilding our chosen family circle from the ashes of Caroline's betrayal. Of course, the invitations were carefully worded that Aiden's parents, along with any cousins or aunts/uncles who had taken their side, were not welcome. As painful as that was, we stuck to the boundaries for our own well-being. Caroline and Robert made a few more half-hearted attempts to plead their case, but their message had been immovable, until they took full accountability and compensated me for the psychological